Once upon a time, Polly ran frantically through the dark forest of fear and doubt until one day she slowed down enough to notice the trees were beautiful. The more she noticed the trees, the less she saw the darkness. She discovered she was in an olive grove rather than a forest. This is when she uncovered her magic truth. Polly's purpose is to shine in every way. Welcome to her manifesting success story. Hello and welcome to this episode. I am your host, Cassie Parks, and I am back with Paulie Rojas for her 14th interview. Yay!
Hooray!
I know, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
So much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell us what's awesome.
What's awesome is this, during the morning call, one of the Enchanted Circle ladies complimented our podcast that I was in, and it was so touching because we're on number 14, and it's really such a cool evidence that what we talk about on the podcast is impacting and resonating with listeners. So that was really, really, really nice.
Yay. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I loved hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was like, oh, that's huge evidence for all your future fans.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Which was awesome. I love that. How would you say your future self has been showing up?
So she has been showing up devoted and committed and disciplined and trusting.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, amazing. Cool. Well, let's talk about this too. What manifesting muscle would you say you've been working out lately?
100% the trust muscle and the belief muscle, and the light at the end of the tunnel is that I don't see yet.
Mm-hmm.
Especially last week, I was in this fog and I just couldn't see. But I kept doing what I'm supposed to do, not what I'm supposed to do, but what I'm inspired to do. Yeah. Even though it was hard to feel the inspiration, I know that when I started what I want to do, the training, it came from inspiration. So that was so uncomfortable going through it, even though I knew it came from inspiration, but in the moment I wasn't feeling inspired. But that's why I kept going, because I knew it came from inspiration, and that the other side of it is more inspiration. So it's a funny place to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Between inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. In those moments between inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
so as you were talking, I was wondering, so would you call that commitment? How would you define that for you? Like the moment and keeping going from inspiration to inspiration?
Because the commitment is inspired. And the devotion is inspired. And I've heard your podcast on both with Jenny about, being committed and devoted. I know that the devotion is inspired. So even though the work at the moment was not inspired, I know I was like, Cassie, I just don't want to do ballet. Even though I'm committed to doing it 5 times a week. Right. And you were like, okay, well then just take this Monday off and then do 5 days and go into Saturday. And when you said that, I thought, I really don't want to do it on the weekend. But you were like, just go take a nap and see how you feel. So as soon as I finished my session with you, I lied down and I was like, no, I actually really do want to do ballet. So it's learning that in that space, that permission that we give ourselves, there is the choice of finding inspiration again, or realizing that what I've committed to came from inspiration. And even though it's not that it was forced, it was like a pull of go do it. You know what you know what's at the end of it. You know why you're doing it. Was what got me to do it. Because, I know you talk about it all the time, but I thought, LOA, always feeling inspired, always feeling good, always feeling this, right? But the growth is never comfortable. And so it was a really cool experience, and I'm still going through it now, that inspiration isn't always going to be like, woohoo, great.
Yeah.
But where I'm going is going to feel great, and that's why I'm doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And giving yourself those little permissions in between.
allowing that inspiration to come back, right? Like taking a nap,
Yes.
like,
Right.
okay, let me lay down.
Yeah.
And it sounds like almost as soon as you let yourself do that versus
Right.
having that fight of,
Mm-hmm.
I should do this. I said I would, I this, I that. Like
Yes.
inspiration has space to come up again.
Right. Right. It started to feel like I was like my own teenager that I'm like, Mom, I don't want to, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, fine, go take a nap. And then my inner teenager was like, oh, fine, I'll do it. You know,
Right.
I'll go do ballet now.
Yeah. As soon
Yeah.
as you stop asking me, like, I'll go do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I even got a parenting lesson for when I have kids. Yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's really great. Mm-hmm.
And that kind of ties into, we talked last week, and I want to talk a little bit more about this too, is sort of the altruism thing that kind of you've been going through. But let's talk about self-pity first and how allowing yourself, because I think this is another LOA, probably what you thought, like, I'm never allowed to feel self-pity. I'm never allowed to feel this stuff, but allowing that, tell us about allowing that and what it opened up.
Great. So I'm so passionate about humanitarian work and human rights and all of this, and so I've been inspired from all the assignments that have been coming up to just explore more and discover ways of giving back that are highly effective. And so I found out about effective altruism, all this wonderful stuff. I started, I bought these audiobooks and started reading all about it. And the more I read it, the more inspired I was. And the more I realized, how lucky I am. I've always known that I'm very, very privileged and how lucky I am. And then the flip side of that is how dire other people are, and children across, in very difficult situations. And then I even started reading about how it could actually, some people consider it selfish to have 2 kidneys, because if you have 2 kidneys, we actually don't, you have a 1/400,000 chance that anything will happen to you with only 1 kidney. So essentially the book I was reading was saying that you're valuing your life 400,000 times more than anyone else that needs a kidney. And that's not okay. And so that, it didn't kickstart it, but I was already going into this rabbit hole of, wow, I'm a selfish person, and the more I give, the better I am as a person, the more valuable I am, and because of the more value I'm giving, right? So I start spiraling into like, wow, I started thinking, oh wait, maybe I will give up 1 kidney one day, But in the midst of that, I was training for ballet, and I'm learning the song on the guitar, and I was like, man, I suck at this, and just all this resistance was happening that was paralleling my need, or my feeling of being selfish. And I was like, Cassie, I'm just in such a funk. Like I'm complaining to myself, like inwardly. I'm feeling so bad for myself because I'm not doing a good job singing or doing ballet or playing. I'm really terrible, but I'm not allowed. I don't feel like I can, because there's all these other people suffering that have real needs, and that's not okay. And you're like, okay, whoa, like, let's back up. Like, first of all, you said like, okay, I'm giving you permission to just wallow in self-pity for a week, even though it sounds very counterintuitive. Just give yourself the space to feel bad for yourself. And of course I trust you. So I said, okay. And it's funny, when you said that, I was so relieved, because I didn't realize I could give myself we give ourselves permission for a lot of things, to feel all of our feelings. But for some reason I thought self-pity is not a real human thing to do.
Right.
So then you were like, okay, just give yourself space to wallow in self-pity, even if it's like, I don't know, because you broke a nail or whatever, like the smallest things. And that just lifted everything. And you told me to also pause on reading all about all these altruistic things, and, just because it was filling my head, making me feel even worse. So I did. And it took, 2 days of just like dramatic self-pity. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I feel so free, and I feel just all these things started aligning. I found a ballet teacher who is like very law of attraction, that says mantras like as you're holding a pose. She's like, just keep repeating, like she asked the whole class to say, I am on it. Oh, my body loves being flexible. It's getting more and more flexible. So it was, I opened up the space to follow inspiration. I found a teacher that I really love. I signed up for her classes. So essentially giving myself permission opened up a lot, and I felt so much better. I feel so happy. Like what a difference a week makes for me.
Yes.
All the feelings I just feel lighter, brighter, really, really good.
Yay. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, you can give yourself that same permission. Like, don't resist, because anytime we resist anything, we're resisting everything, right? So even when we're resisting, I don't want to feel bad, but I do feel bad. And I want some self-pity, because it can be frustrating. Like, you're learning a lot. You are, no other word except for expecting a lot from your body is coming out right now. And doing all, I mean, both your body and your mind and your singing voice and your fingers for guitar, like everything, you're expecting a lot. And yeah, allowing that space of not getting any better, like, and just like really allows us to open up and see something different instead of resisting what is.
Right. And it was affecting my poor boyfriend. Like he started calling me Moody Mary. I'm like, that's not helping. I was like, I don't know. And then I talked with you, like, just tell him what you need, and like ask him, like, what, communicate.
Yeah.
When I feel this way, what I need is space, and then give me a hug. And what can I do to be better when I'm feeling this way? And this is what I would let and it, we had a lovely conversation, and he's been so good. He makes dinner every night, and he's always telling me that I'm wonderful. And that's just, it's really heavenly to be able to know, to communicate and tools.
Yeah. To have someone, I think a lot of people need this reminder, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to be this way, but we get in that space, but like, oh, okay, well, talk to the person that you're with, or ask for what you need, or just be clear, because they don't know, like they're not in our head.
Right. And it really, like you said, is a wonderful opportunity to learn to communicate, or to ask for what that opportunity was such a gift. Because we wouldn't have had this conversation otherwise. And as you said, I'll be doing a different part and growing into a different being with each part that I play. So this isn't a one-off,
Right.
It be, but it's practice for the future.
Yeah. And for all your other roles. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Because like there is a learning, it's very similar to LOA. Like, you're growing into the depths of this character that you're playing.
Right.
And so there's going to be the same sort of breakdowns and frustrations and pushing against and opening up as when you're growing yourself in the LOA process.
Right. And I went back to listen to a few of your podcasts, and it was so poignant, because there was a part where you talk about change with Jenny, and how you talk about a snake, how when a snake sheds its skin, it's going to be a little bit raw because it's growing into it. So there's this raw, tender period that is especially important to communicate when I'm feeling this tender, like being exposed,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And in turn, I know that with my boyfriend, he realizes he can do that too. Right. Like it's also a learning moment for him, that it's okay.
Yeah.
To feel that way too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because when we honor that in ourselves, we automatically, without even saying anything, give permission to anyone who gets to see it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And he might not be in like the Enchanted Circle, but in his life, he is growing into different roles in his business and doing different things. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll take a second to show off, but he's growing so much. And I know it's because it's also, by osmosis, a benefit that he gets from me being in the Enchanted Circle, and him growing into his future self without even knowing it. So it's been really, really fun. And I'm so proud of him for so many things that he's growing into and how he handles things.
Yay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, since we're on the topic of you two, you recently gave money, and a couple weeks to a couple months ago, I don't remember, we have had conversations before and coaching through this, when do I give money? And you guys travel a lot to a lot of countries that are not as well off as America. And so you meet these people and often get requests, and we've coached through like, when do you give money? And so do you want to tell us about your recent inspired story?
Yes. Oh man, it's been so great. So last December, my boyfriend, his mom, and I backpacked in India. Amazing. And it was absolutely, it was so wonderful, especially being with his mom, and she's so adventurous and amazing. And so we went to the north of India, and we stayed with these 3 brothers who have 3 different hostels, and they have no education, but they've somehow managed to figure out how to have a hostel. They were so kind. They learned by speaking to tourists, like English. One of them speaks fluent Mandarin, and they're self-starters that had nothing, and now they have these. They treated us so beautifully. I'll give them a shout out. They love Bob Dylan, so they have one hostel called the Bob Cafe, and the other one called the Dylan Cafe. So they're really, really great. And so we've kept in touch. And a couple of days ago, I got this long message from the youngest brother saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry to ask you this, but it's, we've been hit so hard with Corona, and we just opened, as you know, the 3rd hostel, and we're in a really bad place." He's like, "I would never ask you this, but is it possible for you to help us?" And normally, like, we get these requests all the time, and it hasn't ever felt like, like sometimes we meet people and right away they ask for money, but we've had this relationship where they're always checking in and seeing how we're doing. It felt really good to help them. And so I was thinking, I'd love to help them a lot. And in India, $1 goes a really long way. But I thought what would be so amazing was, I was thinking between 200 and I was thinking really crazy and thinking, maybe 500. Maybe I could give him $500. That sounded a little like, scary to me. And then my boyfriend goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, remember the 3 brothers? And they showed him the message, and he goes, "Well, why don't you give him $250 and I'll give him $250?" And I was like, it's like he read my mind. And I would never ask anyone else to go in on it with me.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel right to ask somebody else to give them money, So it's just such a moment of I felt his growth and his heart, his generosity, everything about it, and our partnership, And so we sent them the money, and I learned how to send money through Western Union online, which I'd never known about. Yeah, I know, I feel so good now. And they were just so gracious about it, and it just felt like something that he and I created together. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love how you can feel from you how good giving that money feels.
Yes. Yeah. So good. And then I told him, like, money always comes back to you, just in case he was a little bit worried.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Let's not do that because of that. Let's just do it to give." And I was like, "Oh my God, like, who are you? This is amazing."
Right?
Yeah. So, and he was just saying how good that felt to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And this was the kind of stuff I dreamed about before even, the kind of partner I wanted to be with. And he wasn't that person before, but now he is. So it was, yeah, it feels so good.
Oh, that's so fun. Amazing. Yeah. I love it. And I just put this together, that sort of putting down that altruism book of like, which to me, I haven't read it, I will be fair. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of rules, right? It's a lot of how you should like do it. And like, so I think it's very cool that you put this down and this opportunity came up, because it's huge. Right.
And it's funny because as I was reading the book and there were all these rules, I thought, the coaching that we've done, it's like, no, it's okay to have nice things. It's okay that I want to have a nice sturdy car. It's okay that I want to have a big house one day to have lots of people. It's okay. And what they're saying is they're people who believe that it's our responsibility to not live above our means, or to live without, if we don't need it, it's irresponsible to have it. So
interesting.
So it's good. Yeah. It's okay. It feels good to be in abundance, because that is, I would think, scarcity thinking.
Yeah. That's how I would put it. Yeah.
Right. That doesn't feel right.
Well, and it's really, it gets really like, it's like denying yourself, right?
Right.
Like, you can't ask for something, which is scarcity, because that means if I have this, someone else can't have it.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And almost putting pleasure as like a taboo.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And we're not about that at all.
Right.
We're about complete like fulfillment and pleasure and all of that, and being valuable to others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And knowing that as you enjoy yourself, like you're naturally going to give more and you're going to make more of an impact and you're going to be able to help more people than like trying to shrink yourself because you don't deserve anything above like
what other people have. Yeah. Right. So they had a lot. This wasn't the only thing the book was saying. They had a lot of really great, wonderful information, but I think it's how they were going about it that wasn't the LOA way of doing it. Yeah, for me. Maybe for them, yes, but not for me.
Right. Yeah, which is the most important, right? Is to find the thing that that feels good, because if it doesn't feel good, it's not going to have the impact, right?
Right.
But when something like this feels so good, I can see for years this being some sort of reciprocal amazingness, and just because it's natural, not because it has to be, or that's the reason, just like,
Right. Yeah. And they, of course, the book, all books about altruism talk about like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. I'm like, they don't have little tiny, like, I don't think Bill Gates has a small little house,
Exactly.
Yeah. And he's given so much. So, anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anything is possible. I love it. Amazing. So speaking of which, I want to tell this story because I think it's so awesome. You got offered a loan and we did a little coaching and you were like, yeah, it feels really good. Like I don't have to pay back for a year and then I can just focus on getting ready for this amazing part, right?
Yes. Yeah. And at first I wasn't sure because to me a loan is debt. I would equate it, but I don't have to worry about it for a year. It helps me to just focus on training. So it's as if I'm getting paid to just train. And then it's an amount that I know like a year from now, I'll have the acting job that will pay it like in one go. I don't have to worry about the 3.75%, which is a great interest rate. Yeah. But I don't even have to worry about that because I know that the job is coming where I'll just pay it off right away. And you also said that it had the added benefit that it increases my business account loan. Like, that increases everything. So it's a win-win. Yeah. And it's like, I love knowing that it'll be taken care of and I'm getting paid right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think what's cool I want listeners to understand is that we figured out you would be getting paid for sort of this upcoming job after you decided. Like you were like, it feels really good. And my coaching is, of course, then yes, that's, it feels really good. That's what you should do. And then it was a little bit later kind of in the coaching, like you had said something and I did some math and I'm like, oh, well, if you get paid for this time before this job officially starts, then like that is when you'll be making that money. And it was like, it was that trust of this is what feels good for right now. And then just like, having that bonus of like, oh yeah. And of course it's tanking.
And on top of that. Yeah. So it's like, you always say, putting the trust in first, like don't worry about the how.
Yeah.
And you said that today in coaching is, if you are going to worry about the how, you can ask like, oh, I wonder how the universe is going to supply this. But it has nothing to do with what I have to do.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I wanted to share this story because I thought it was so cool. So if you listen to the last episode, we talked about Paulie being on Community and it was super fun. We actually had a really great conversation afterwards, which was like a lot of evidence for me that Paulie didn't even know about. And I said something on that last episode, like, oh, and after this airs, everybody will you'll get a bigger royalty check because everybody's going to go check out that episode.
Yep.
And it was like the next day I just popped on Netflix and I see Community is like number 2 in all of the country and Netflix. And it was just like, yep, there it is. And the interview hadn't even aired to you guys that are listening right now, because as we're recording this, you haven't even heard that previous episode as we're recording it. But just that energy, I just thought it was such a great, like, there it is. Like I hadn't seen Community on the list
And then there it was.
There
and
it was.
But you told me that because I had no idea. And then you're like, by the way, it's number 2. And you always hear about, it's like also evidence because you always hear about these actors like, oh, by the way, did you see you're on the cover of it?
Yes.
It was super fun. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course it is. Because we talked about it.
Right?
Everything turns to magic. Yeah.
It does turn to magic.
Yeah. Yeah. That was so cool. I'm so happy you told me that.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh yeah.
I love it.
So fun.
That's so great.
Yeah. So what has been the most magical thing that's happened in your life in the last couple months?
The timing and the alignment of things. As you said that my boyfriend and I, we travel so much. We love going to the less traveled countries and make videos about how beautiful these places are and the people. And it's really, we've seen some extraordinary things. And then I was definitely apprehensive this year because there's training that I need to get done and travel that I wanted to do. However, travel is not possible anymore.
Right.
And so it just felt like this silver platter of, there you go. Like you were worried about something. Now, literally all you can do is stay home and make the best out of it. Mm-hmm. And this is such a great opportunity to, just be home and train and make the best out of it. And it's been crazy because, I had like a hair appointment or something. And the ladies there were like, oh my God, how is quarantine? Like, we're so back. Like our kids were driving us crazy, And they're like, how is lockdown for you? I'm like, actually, it's still amazing. I've had the time of my life. Like my boyfriend and I have never been better. We play games. I'm training. I'm learning so much. My brain is like my heart, my spirit, everything is growing. And I could tell they were like, okay, like just get your hair done. But I love being that person that like can take all of this, whatever, the world state and everything, and have a community that emphasizes that there's magic in everything. And even like what is happening with the pandemic is an opportunity to grow in so many ways. And I know that it's the training that I'm being able to do being at home that will make me travel the world even more so because of what I've been able to do just being still at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Right. Yeah. It's really been such a special time for me personally. And I'm very, very lucky that no one that I know has been affected by the coronavirus, So yeah, I feel very, very, very blessed.
Amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to come back. I just remembered a point that I wanted to share about the loan and like not having to worry about rent and taking the loan. And when we went through Manifest 10K, and it took a couple of rounds, because it was even now that we're even talking about sort of the altruism thing, I think part of even your first Manifest 10K list was like, oh, I want to give this away. I want to do this. And we had a real conversation about it. It wasn't that you didn't want to do that, but it's just like, that wasn't where you were. And when we did some coaching, we came to what would feel really good.
Yeah.
Is if I had my rent paid and all I had to do was focus on training. And that is exactly what you've created. Right.
I literally the loan will come in and I can just give 6 months away and then don't even worry about anything.
Amazing.
Yeah. And still have money left over for all of their expenses and then some.
That's amazing. How does that feel to have created that?
So incredible. Yeah. And it's funny because this is interview 14. It's not surprising. It's just, I forgot to tell you this,
Right.
It was like, you'll never believe it. Now it's like, oh, by the way.
Right.
It's also happening. Yeah. So it's cool. That's a normal thing.
It is. It's awesome how normal it becomes.
So normal. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing this moment in your journey with us. Is there anything else that's on your heart or you want to make sure to share today?
There's always so much, but I'm full of gratitude as always, just being so gracious. And I'm so grateful that we can see you almost every day. You're so available to us and you still have boundaries for yours. It's really just, you're such a wonderful example. So
thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
Absolutely. And thank you for being here. And thank you to all of our listeners. Make sure to come back and check out what else is awesome next time in Paulie's life.
The telling of stories is so powerful, both to the person telling it and the person receiving it. Since 30,000 BC, we as humans have told stories to teach and guide. And now we, with Manifesting Success Stories, hope to inspire you to what is possible in your own life. If you want more manifesting success, go to moremanifestingsuccess.com, where you'll find links to anything we've talked about on the show. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, you have the power to write your own happy ever after.